Hey everyone, and welcome to the course. My name is Daniel Buckley and I'll be your instructor. In this course, we are going to learn the fundamentals of web development with HTML and CSS. So first of all, what is HTML? Well, HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, is the coding language we use to develop web pages. It's in charge of our website's structure, defining the headers, text, links, images, input fields, etc. HTML is an easy-to-learn language which has various applications beyond software development. To define the elements of our website, HTML uses tags. Now, we're going to be covering tags and all the various different types all throughout the course, so by the end, you'll hopefully have a great understanding of how to build the structure of your website using HTML. Now, HTML is in charge of the structure of our websites, but CSS is what we use to format our websites, okay? This includes defining the layout, the fonts, the colors, etc. Without CSS, all the websites on the internet will look very similar. As seen below here, applying CSS to a website can really change how it looks. Here at Zenva, we have a wide range of courses to discover. If you're just a beginner starting out, or if you already have some experience in your belt, there's always something new for you to learn. With hundreds of thousands of students enrolled, we have designed Zenva in a way so that the learning experience is tailored to you. You can choose to watch the video tutorials online, read the included lesson summaries, and even download the course files and follow along with the instructor. Now let's get started with our first lesson. Hey everyone, and welcome. In this lesson, we are going to get started in beginning to learn HTML. Now, before we jump straight into coding and writing out our websites, we first of all need our IDE, our Integrated Development Environment. And this is a program or a service where we can write down our code, run it, and be able to see the result. Okay, now there are a number of different methods for doing this, which we'll be going through in this lesson. The first thing you do need though is a web browser that is adequate enough for web development, okay? So if you are using something such as Internet Explorer or one of the default operating systems, I recommend you do go ahead and get something like Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, okay? As these are web browsers which are very powerful and which also have integrated developer consoles, which allow us to basically have a much more refined control over our websites and see a lot more of the back-end data and information that may be useful in web development, okay? Now, along with a web browser, you also need your IDE software, which is where we actually write the code, okay? Now, there are a large number of HTML IDEs out there on the internet. You can, of course, do your own research on these, but there are a few that we do recommend. And the first one here is Atom, which is supported on Windows and Mac computers. We then have Brackets over here, which is another great alternative. We have Notepad++, we have Sublime Text, and we have Visual Studio Code. Now, we have all those IDEs there, but for this course, we aren't going to be using an IDE like so. And the reason why is because with this course, we just want to jump straight into learning how to code in HTML. And to do that, we are going to use a cloud-based IDE called REPL.it, okay, REPL.it. And with REPL.it, it basically allows you to jump straight into coding straight away. You have your code on the left, you have your output on the right, and you don't have to install any software, okay? So that is the reason why we are using our cloud-based software. We aren't affiliated with REPL.it in any way. And an alternative to this sort of cloud-based programming is JSBin, which works in a very similar way. So over here on REPL.it, what we want to do is first of all click on the Start Coding button down here. Okay, we'll click on this button and then it's going to prompt us to log in. Now you can create an account here with REPL.it, or you can log in with a Google, GitHub, or Facebook account. Okay, I recommend doing this as it's probably the quickest way in getting into the service. So I'm going to log in with my Google account and I'll be right back once that's complete. Okay, so once you're logged in, you want to go to the top left where it says plus new REPL up here. You want to click on that, and now we can choose our language, okay? Which coding language do we want to choose? Well, for us, we want to choose HTML, CSS, and JavaScript right here, all in one. So we'll select that. We can then give our project a name. I'm going to call this one HTML intro. And then we can click create REPL down here. Okay, and this is going to create our brand new project. Now, once this opens up, you'll see that there is some example code here in the center. We don't need to worry about that just yet, as I understand that this may be very confusing. There's lots of stuff here, but hopefully by the end of the course, you'll have a good understanding of what each line of this code here does. So first of all, here in the center, we have our coding window where we have the ability to write down code and edit code. Over here on the right hand side, we have our web page output, okay? So when we click on this run button at the top here, this is where we are going to see our website appear. Down below this, we have a console. Now this is only for JavaScript and not HTML, so we won't be worrying about this throughout the course. And on the left-hand side, we have the Files panel where we can see all of the different files inside of our project here. So in this lesson, what we're going to do is basically try and display some text on our web page. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to select all of this code here inside of our code editor, and I'm going to backspace to delete it. Okay, we don't want any code there to start off with. Let's start nice and simple. And all I'm going to do is write down hello world. You can write whatever you want here. When you write code like this, or when you write text, I mean, inside of your HTML document and click the run button, you'll see that it gets displayed on screen right here. Okay, this is our web output. This is where we are going to be seeing our website whenever we write down HTML in this document here. If you do want this in a brand new tab, maybe you want to make it a much bigger window, you can click on this button at the top right corner where it says open in new tab, and it's going to open it up in a brand new tab inside of your browser. Okay, you can of course undock this, move this around to wherever you wish. But we're going to be working inside of this screen right here, just so it's a lot more easier and accessible if we have everything on screen at the same time. Okay, and you can of course resize these windows if you wish. If you hover over the center, you can click and drag to move these windows. So maybe you want a much bigger screen like this, but I'm going to keep it about that. You can of course also move down the console since we won't necessarily be needing it. And yep, there we go. So in the next lesson, we are going to begin looking at tags in HTML, more specifically how we can get some titles set up inside of our websites. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next lesson. Welcome back everyone. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at tags inside of HTML. Now, in HTML, tags is how we actually structure our code and structure our website, okay? A tag can allow us to basically define where we want a header text, where we want a link, where we want an image, where we want to place a video or a GIF inside of our website, where we want to sort of separate individual segments. So tags are very versatile, and we'll be looking at a large number of different tags throughout this course. So first of all, what is a tag and how do we actually set it up? Okay, what is the structure of a tag itself? Well, a tag has 3 different parts, and I think the best way to imagine it is like a sandwich, okay? With a sandwich, you have bread on the top and bottom, and in the middle, you have the contents of the sandwich or the contents of the tag. So this example tag here, H1, is a header, and this basically gives us bold, larger font size text that we can use as a website header or a header of a paragraph, for example. So this works with an opening tag, the contents, and then a closing tag. You can see that the opening tag basically has 2 angled brackets with the name of the tag in the middle. Then we have the contents between the 2 opening and closing tags right here. And then we have to close it off, okay? You got to make sure that whenever you open up a tag inside of HTML, you are always closing it as well. And then you close it by basically doing the exact same thing as opening it, but putting a slash before the tag name, okay? And this basically tells your computer, okay, we are opening up a tag here, this is what we want the contents to be, and now we are closing this tag. So let's now have a look at how we can create a header tag, okay? So right here, we have our hello world text. I'm going to select that and delete it. And what we're going to do is replace this with our header. So to do this, I'm going to first of all create an opening angle bracket right here. Now in REPL.it, you can see there are a large number of different tags inside of this pop-up window that we can select from, but we're going to write out H1 for header 1. And then we have to close that intro tag off with another angled bracket. So we are encapsulating the name of the tag within these angled brackets here. Now on the right hand side of this tag, of the opening tag, we need to enter in the contents. Okay, what do we want to have the header tag applied to it? So let's just say this is a header. Okay, this is the text we're going to write. Now we need to close off this header. So I'm going to do an angled bracket here, then do /H1, and then close that off with another angled bracket. Okay, so this is the structure of the header tag. We can then click on the run button, and you'll see here that we now have text, but it looks a bit different, okay? The font size is larger, and it is in bold. So that is the header 1 tag right here. Now, along with the header 1 tag, it says there's a 1, that means there must be a header 2 tag. And the header 2 tag is basically similar to the header 1, but it has a smaller font size, and these can be used for things such as subcategories or subheaders within a website. So to do that, we can just go H2 as an opening tag. And what I like to do is actually create my tags first. So we have the opening tag, and then I create the closing tag here, and then go in and fill in the contents of the tag here. So I can then go, this is a subheader, for example. Click on the run button, and now we can see our text right here. We have, this is a header, and this is a subheader, okay? And you can see that the font size is a bit smaller. And of course, we have a H3 tag for header 3. And I want you to go ahead right now and create yourselves a header 3 tag just underneath the existing 2 right here. Okay, and there we go. So we've got our H3 tag here. I've written some text in between the opening and closing tags. And you can see here in our preview window, it says this is an even smaller header in even smaller text. So that is the basics of tags inside of HTML. Okay, it follows a 3-step process. You have your opening tag here, you have your contents of the tag, in our case it is text that we're writing out, and then you have a closing tag. Okay, whenever you're opening up a tag, you always have to close it. If you don't close it and then you start opening up other tags, the attributes of that tag will also be applied to whatever you are writing afterwards, okay? And it can look quite messy if you do forget to close up a tag, so always keep that in mind, okay? Thank you for watching, and in the next lesson, we are going to be looking at paragraphs, okay? Creating content underneath our headers. So I'll see you all then in the next lesson. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the course. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at setting up paragraphs and new lines inside of our HTML code. Now, one important concept that you need to understand before going ahead is that the way that we write our code, the way that we lay it out inside of the code editor right here, is mainly there for us in order to make it readable, okay? So as you can see here, we have this line and then this line on individual lines, and that is reflected over here inside of our resulting website. So it may be intuitive to think, okay, the fact that we have these on new lines means that it's going to have new lines over in our website. Well, that's not the case. Let's just say we want to put web development and HTML, these two headers, on the same line. Well, I can do that right here. Okay, and I'll click run, but you'll see that it's not on the same line, okay? They're on separate lines. And the reason why is because in HTML, whenever we're creating a new tag right here, it's pretty much going, okay, this is a new segment of the screen. We can have our contents here. And then whenever we create a new HTML tag, it's going to go, okay, new line, this is what we're going to be displaying. Now, we are only putting these on new lines, and we're only doing indentation with other tags to make it more readable for us as humans, okay? So this here is much more readable than something like this. And then when you have thousands of tags inside of your code right here, you do want to make sure that it is easily readable, okay, on new lines, indentation. But at the end of the day, when we click the run button, the computer is not looking at what's on which line, okay? We could have spaces in between these two lines like so, hit run, and it's going to result in the exact same website. So let's now have a look at paragraphs. Now, right now we've learned that, okay, if we want text to be displayed on our screen, we can just start writing text out inside of HTML, such as I want to learn coding. And then we can also enter in on a new line here some other text. And realistically, from what we've seen so far, we should have these on different lines. Okay, so we'll click run, but as you'll see, it is all on one single line right here. So the reason why is because what we're doing here is not encapsulating these inside of tags. Okay, we are writing out code, and basically from the browser's perspective, this is all one line of code. Okay, remember there is no such thing to the computer such as spaces or new lines. Okay, the computer does not understand that. Okay, this is only for us. So basically writing this out here is the exact same as writing out something like this. Okay, this new line here is not being recognized by the computer as it sees everything just as one big clump of text. So how do we create two new lines of normal text? Well, for that we can use the paragraph tag. Okay, just like with our headers here, we can create ourselves an opening tag. So angle bracket, and for a paragraph, we're going to go P, our closing bracket here, and then we need our closing tag at the end, /P, and that is going to create ourselves a new paragraph line. We can do the exact same for the second line here. So /P to close that off. Hit run, and you'll see that we now have these on two individual lines, okay? And the paragraph tag is basically where we can write text and display that to the screen in a much more controlled format rather than just typing it out like we were doing before, okay? So that is the paragraph tag inside of HTML. And in the next lesson, we are going to be looking at something that most websites have, and that is links, okay? We might want to have a link to a different web page, a different website even, and these are going to be very important and very powerful for your websites. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next lesson. Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at the link tag, okay? And the link tag is very important and very powerful inside of HTML. It can allow us to link to different web pages within our own website, or we can use it to link the user to an external website if you want to guide them over there. So in our example here, we are going to be making it so that Zenva right here is going to be clickable. Okay, on our website, we can hover over and click on it to open up the zenva.com website. So how are we going to do this? Well, first of all, I'm going to make it not say zenva.com. Instead, I'm going to make it just say Zenva, since we don't need the .com, as that's going to be automatically done for us when we go over to it. So on this Zenva text right here, what we're going to do is encapsulate it within a tag called A. So here, I'm going to do an opening bracket, go A, and then do a closing bracket called A as well. Now, something you may notice is that we are doing tags within tags, and this is something you can do in HTML. Okay, we have a paragraph tag here, which is encapsulating all of this text here, and then we have a link tag, which is encapsulating this text here. And so Zenva has both the link tag properties and the paragraph tag properties applied to it. Okay, we could also do a link up here in the header, so we have a bold and larger link. So we have our link right here. Let's click run, and as you can see, when we click on Zenva, nothing happens. And the reason why is because we haven't told the link to link anywhere at all. Okay, right now we have the link tags, but it's not doing anything. Okay, it doesn't know where it wants to take us. So we have to tell it where we want to go. And the way to do this is by assigning the tag an attribute. Now in HTML, we can give tags attributes, which is basically like telling a tag some more information. Okay, telling the tag information that it needs in order to apply to the website. Now, in our case for a link, we need to give it a link attribute, okay? We need to basically tell this tag where we want to navigate to when this is clicked. And to do this, we need to create a attribute called href, okay? And this is basically a linking site. We then go equals, and then in quotation marks, we enter in the website we want to link to. So for this here, I'm going to go to our opening a tag, our opening link tag. I'm going to do a space, and then I'm going to go href equals, and then in two quotation marks here, we enter in the name or the URL of the website, okay? What URL do we want to navigate to? And in our case, we're going to go to zenva.com. So I'm going to go https://zenva.com, okay? And this right here is linking this link right here to zenva.com. We can click the run button, and what you'll see is on our website now, we have a bluish sort of text with an underline. And this is basically a definition of a link, okay? When users see this, they'll go, oh, that is a link, I can click on that. And when we hover over it, you can see that the pointer turns into the clickable icon. So we can click on this and it is going to navigate us to zenva.com, okay? In this preview window here, we are opening up the zenva.com website. Now in REPL.it right here, to go back to the previous website or to go back to our website, we can just right click and click on where it says back, okay? And it's going to take us back to our website. So now we have working links within our website, okay? We can link to different websites. If we want to have a list of, my favorite websites or the best learning resources, we can create a website just like that. Now, let's just say you want to give the user more information about where you are leading them to when they click a link, okay? And what we can do with that is by creating a title attribute within our A tag right here. And tags can have multiple attributes. So after we are defining href right here, I'm going to do a space, go title equals, and then within 2 quotation marks, we are going to give it a title. And for this, I'm going to go learn programming, okay? We can then run that, and on the surface, everything looks the exact same, but look what happens when we hover over the Zenva link. You'll see it pops up with a little sort of preview text saying learn programming, and that is what a title is as an attribute to a link tag. So if you maybe have a list of various different links, you might want to give the user more information about where they are going or what they could potentially find on that website, and that is what you can do with a title attribute. Okay, so we're able to link to external websites, but what if we want to link to another web page within our very own website? Well, first of all, we need to create ourselves a new page. And to do that, we can go over here to the top left corner of the screen where it says add file. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to call this one, let's just say new page.html. You do have to add that .html extension at the end in order for this file to know that it is a HTML file. Hit enter, and we have created our new page right here. So on this page here, I'm just going to type something simple, just such as this is a new page. Okay, we're just using this as an example in order to see, okay, how do we switch to a new page? I'm going to go back to index.html, which is our default page here, and I'm going to create a brand new link on a new line. Let's create a new paragraph tag right here. And inside of this paragraph tag, we're just going to have text that says link to another page. And we are going to make where it says another page a link tag. So just like before, we need to create the A opening tag and the A closing tag in order to create a link. And then remember that if we do want to actually link somewhere, we need to enter in the href attribute. So after A, I'm going to go href equals, and instead of going http or www, all we need to do is basically write out the file name, okay? If you do have subfolders, you do have to enter in those folder directories, but we've made it nice and simple for us. We have our new page here in the exact same folder. So all we need to do is in 2 quotation marks, just go new page.html. Okay, click run, and then you'll see here we have the link to another page, a link right here. We can click on that and it is going to take us to our new page. This is a new page. We can right click, go back here. And yeah, that is how we can link to new pages within our very own website. Let's quickly go over what we've learned. We've created the A tag here, which is a link that we can navigate to either an external website with the href attribute, or we can link to an internal web page with the href attribute as well. Okay, we've also looked at the title attribute, which is applied when we hover over the link, and it gives us a bit more information about what we're about to click. And yep, so basically links are these very powerful things that you can use pretty much in many different circumstances on your website. So thanks for watching, And in the next lesson, we're going to be looking at how we can create some images here on our website. So I'll see you all then in the next lesson. Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at how we can include images on our website. Right now, we just have a pretty bland white background with black text right here. So adding in some images will be really good in telling the users what our website is about and what they can get from here. So how do we include images on our website? Well, first of all, we need to add the image file to our files over here on the left-hand side. And to do that, I'm going to click on these three dots right here and go where it says Upload File. And here we can choose pretty much any file to add to our website contents. So I'm going to choose this background image right here, which you can download from the Course Files tab. Just simply download that zip file, extract it, and the background image is going to be in the corresponding lesson folder. So you can get that right there. So when we open this up, I'm just going to select it, then click on Open to add this to our files list. And you can see here, we now have the background.png added to our files. So how do we actually add this image to our website? Well, we're going to be using an image tag, okay? The image tag, simply you set up the tags and then you have an attribute which links to the corresponding image you want to display. Similar to with a link here, as you can see, we have a link attribute or the href attribute, which is linking us to the website or the web page that we want to navigate to. An image tag is going to link to the image file that we want to display. So just underneath where it says, I want to learn to code, or I want to learn coding, I'm going to put in some spaces, and just like before I mentioned, you can have as many new lines as you wish, and the computer won't recognize it, so you can pretty much lay it out however you wish. And inside of here, I'm going to do the img tag like so, okay? So make sure to close that tag as well. And if we run this, nothing happens. And the reason why, of course, is because we are not linking an image to display. So to do this, we need to add the source attribute. And to do this, I'm going to go src for source equals, and then in two quotation marks, we need to link the background.png image. And just like we've done down here with linking the new page link, we are just going to go background.png, okay? Make sure you do add the file extension at the end so it knows what type of file it is, okay? We can click run, and there we go. We have our image displayed on screen right here. Now, something that may be bothering you, or something that you may have in the back of your mind, is the fact that with our image tag right here, unlike all of the other tags we've created so far, the image tag has no contents necessarily, okay? And by contents, I mean the stuff that goes in between the opening and closing tag, okay? We are only giving it a source attribute, which is telling it what image to display on screen. Now, we don't need to type anything in here in between the two tags because we don't want any text corresponding with the image, okay? We just want the image. So in this case, we can do something known as a self-closing tag. And a self-closing tag is where we only have the opening tag here. We do not need the closing tag here. Now that contradicts what I mentioned before, where I said you always need to open and close your tag. And how a self-closing tag works is that we can remove the closing tag here, but instead of having no closing tag, we sort of add that on to the end of the opening tag. So here at the end of the opening tag, I'm just going to do a slash like that. And this is now a self-closing tag. Okay, we can click run. And as you can see, the exact same website appears. Now, self-closing tags, of course, aren't really that good if you want to have paragraphs or any sort of text elements. But if you do have something such as an image where you don't really have any content per se for that tag, you can create a self-closing tag. And these are very useful later on when we start introducing more tags which don't necessarily have any text contents. Okay, you're only really adding in attributes here which don't need to be in between the opening and closing tags. Now, let's look at another example of a self-closing tag which may be useful when creating a HTML website. And that is the line break tag or the break tag. And what this does is basically, let's just say in the middle of our paragraph here, we want to all of a sudden go to a new line. Okay, so we want I want to on the top line and learn to code and learn coding on the bottom line. Now, if we do put a space here or a new line in the HTML code, you can see nothing happens. And of course, that's because HTML does not recognize new lines inside of the text editor, okay? So if we do a new line here, basically when it compiles it and reads the code, everything here is on one single line for it. So what we need to do is add the break tag, and to do that, I can just go opening bracket here, go br slash closing bracket like so. And this right here is going to basically tell the website or tell our computer that at this point here, we want to go onto a new line. And if I click run, you'll see that I want to is on the top line and learned coding is on the second line right here. So there is an example of a self-closing tag, okay? I'm just going to remove that for now. And one more thing about using images is that we don't only have to use images that are stored locally inside of our files, okay? We can actually use and get images from anywhere on the internet. And the way we can do that is by where it says source here, instead of going background.png, we just enter in the URL for that specific image file that we want. So for example, let's go over to google.com here, and you see we have the Google logo. What we can do is just right click and go copy image address. This is just an example. If you were doing this, you do have to make sure that the images you are using are public domain, or that you do have the appropriate licensing and crediting in order to use those images, okay? So let's just say you have an image that you're allowed to use. You can go back here and replace the source link with that new image link that goes to that specific image. You can click run, and there we go. So it can pretty much get and access any sort of image around the internet and display it on your screen like so. Okay, I'm just going to go back to our background.png right here, and that is images. So in the next lesson, we are going to be looking at lists, okay? And lists are very important for if you want dot points or if you just want to list out various different things. So I'll see you all then in the next lesson. Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at lists inside of HTML. Now, a list are basically a step of procedures to follow or a list of things that you might want to do. Now, in HTML, there are two types of lists. You have an unordered list and an ordered list. An unordered list would be something like a grocery shopping list, okay, where you have a bunch of different things, but they don't need to be done in any specific order. Whereas an ordered list is a list of things that you need to do in a specific order, such as a cooking recipe. Now, with an unordered list, these are basically laid out with dot points, and an ordered list is laid out with sequential numbers. So you've got number 1, number 2, number 3, etc. So let's start off with an unordered list, okay? And here in HTML, I've just set up two headers, a to-do list and a how to surf header, okay? So for the to-do list, we'll set up an unordered list, and for how to surf, we'll set up an ordered list, okay? So first of all, how do we do an unordered list? Well, to begin, we need to create the UL tag. So here I'm going to go UL, and also make sure to go ahead and make the end tag as well. And what I'm going to do is put these on two new lines. And the reason why is because within this tag, we are going to set up our list elements, okay, our list items. And we could do this all on one line, but you know, for sake of looking at this and understanding it, doing each element on different lines is probably the easiest method to do so. Now, as you can see, when I went onto a new line, it automatically indented the cursor, okay? So the cursor automatically went forward 2 spaces, and this is known as indentation. Now, indentation is very important for us to make this as readable as possible. If every single tag was lined up along the left-hand side border, we would look at that and have no understanding of the hierarchy of certain things, the order. So indentation allows us to see which tags are sort of children of other lists, which tags are a part of another list. In our case, we are going to have list items which are basically a part of our unordered list. So how do we create an item for our list? Well, to do that, we need to create the li tag for list item. So here I'm going to go li, make sure to close that off as well right there. And inside of here is where we basically enter in what we want this list item to say. So here I'm going to go sleep like so, And now if I click run, you'll see that here we have a dot point and it says sleep. Okay, we can also then go ahead and add in multiple more elements. So here I'm going to add in another element called eat healthy. And we can then add in another list item as well. And let's just say this one here is going to be learn HTML. Okay, we can click run and there we go. We have all of our dot points here lined up. And as you can see, it is an unordered list because we don't have numbers here. They're in dot point form. So how do we do an ordered list now? Well, it's pretty much the exact same process, except we don't use the UL tag for the list. Instead, we use the OL tag for ordered list. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So here I'm going to go OL for ordered list. We can then end that off as well right there. Go to a new line, and inside of here, we can then add our list elements just like before. So first of all, how to surf, go to the beach. For the first element, we can then go /li to end that tag off. Create our next tag, could be maybe spot a wave /li to end that off. And finally, we could have another list element that just says paddle. Then we can click run, and you'll see here that unlike our unordered list, the ordered list has numbers. Okay, it goes 1, 2, 3, and any other element we'd be adding in would also have numbers going up from 1. Okay, so an unordered list, something like a grocery shopping list or things to buy, any sort of order that isn't necessary. Whereas an ordered list is something that is good for if there is a specific process to follow, okay? And using these in your websites can be there for multiple different purposes, okay? For example, you could also have links. So you could have a to-do list here, but instead of that, you could maybe have resources and then link a number of different things. For a step-by-step process, you could maybe have different pages that refer to different steps of a process, and here you could have sort of like a main directory where you can navigate to each of those individual steps by clicking on these links right here. Just add in the A tag around the contents in here. Basically, you can mix and match these to do whatever you wish. So yeah, that is the concept of lists inside of HTML. Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to look at the structure of HTML and how a website's page is set up. So the way we've been doing it so far is just by typing in our tags in a basic empty document, okay, and then displaying it on screen here. Well, the general structure and the way that it is done on the web is a bit different. It does contain this code here, but there is a few extra things we have to add just to make it a bit easier for the website to know sort of what language to have, what to call the website, the icon, and so on. So what we're going to do here is we are going to add in some more tags. First of all, we have to define the document type up at the top. So I'm going to go opening bracket here, exclamation mark, doc type in capital letters, and then space, HTML in lowercase letters. Okay, that's just the standard. This is how we define that this is a HTML document. We then need to create the HTML opening and closing tags. So here we're going to go HTML and then do a closing HTML tag here. And this is where our website is going to be contained. Everything is going to be inside of these two HTML tags right here. And a website is divided up into a couple different areas, okay? First of all, we have the header, and then we have the body. The head isn't necessarily where we put in tags to display on our website, but it is where we input information for the web page to know, okay? And I'll show you what I mean. So here we are going to do head, and then do the closing head tag here. And inside of these two tags is where we can define stuff such as the title, for example. And the title is what the name of the tab is called, okay, pretty much. So when you open up the tab, for example, on this website here, we have repl.it dash our project name. So here we're going to create a title tag and make sure to close it off. And in here is where we can enter the name for the title. So for example, I'm going to call this one, this is a page. And what we can then do is also create the body. And the body is basically where we put the contents of our HTML website in. So here I'm going to create the body tag underneath where we create the head, do /body here. And in between these two tags is where we can copy and paste our website. Okay, I'm going to tab in here so it is nice and lined up, indented there. We can click run and it looks pretty much the exact same. But if we open this up in a new tab, what you'll see is that if we look at the top of the screen, our tab is called This is a Page. Okay, we've changed the name of the title. So what else can we do in the head? Well, something we can also do is input a specific char set, a character set, okay? And this is useful for if you have characters from different languages that you might want to use, okay? So it's very useful and generally the best practice. So what we're going to do is create a meta tag, okay? And we are going to give it an attribute of char set for character set. And the character set we're going to give it is UTF-8, okay? And we can close it off like that. Now you notice that we aren't giving this a self-closing tag, and the reason why is because the meta tag, it works a bit differently. This is just the way it is set up. Now another meta tag we can do is the website's description. When you Google something on Google, you'll see that each website has a sort of description or a little bit of text that explains, what it is about or what you're going to find on the website. Well, we can do the same here. I'm going to create a new meta tag, and this time we're going to give it two attributes. First, we'll give it a name attribute, and this name is going to be description, okay? So we are setting the description here. We can then go content equals, and then we can basically give it a description. So for example, I'll just go, this is what Google will show, okay? This is the text that Google will show when you look up our website. Finally, we have one more, and that is the icon. As you can see here on repl.it, they have their custom icon at the left corner of the tab, and we can do the exact same thing. So in the course files for this course, you can find the fav icon, and I'm going to import it right here. So I'm going to click on these three dots, upload file, navigate to the fav icon right here. This is an icon file type as well, and these can be created online, so you can create your PNGs, upload this to a website, and then it can generate the icon files for you. And then what we're going to do is create a brand new link tag here, and we are going to go rel equals icon. So we are wanting to change the icon right here, and we need to then give it a link. And just like with the a tag or the link tag, we are going to go href equals, and we need to give it the file. So here we'll go favicon.ico, okay, and close that off like so. Okay, so we can hit run, we can then open this up in a new tab. Now we don't actually see the new icon displayed up here, and I think the reason why is because since we are running this through repl.it, it may have, some sort of problems with displaying custom icons in the browser. But if this is a HTML file that you're loading up from a server or from your home computer, you should see that icon up here in the top left corner. So, in summary, there is more to your website than just the body here, okay? Than just the visual elements of your header tags, your paragraph tags, your image tags, okay? There's a lot of metadata and backend information that you can give a web page, such as, of course, the title, so the name of the tab pretty much, the character set, the description, and the icon. And there are many more that you can research about, but these are basically the general ones that every web page has. We also went over how to structure your HTML web page with defining the doc type, putting in the HTML tags, defining the header here, and then defining the body. So from now on, whenever you're creating content on your website, you do it inside of the body tag here. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next lesson. Welcome back, everyone. Now that we have a basic foundation of HTML, we are going to be having a look at CSS. Now, what is CSS? Well, I think this is the best way to describe it. With HTML, we're basically telling our web browser what to display and where, okay? We're giving them tags like this here is a header, this here is a paragraph, this here is an image, but we aren't specifying any sort of formatting with that, okay? This is just data that the web browser is displaying on screen. And as you could have probably seen before, it is just black text on a white background with the exact same font. CSS, on the other hand, doesn't lay out any form of structure, but it formats the existing structure that is there, okay? So CSS, we can change the font size, the font color, the font type. we can change the font background, we can change the web page background, we can change the layout as well. There is a large number of different things that we can do with CSS to make our website look unique and make it fit whatever sort of theme we're going for. Okay, you'll see websites all over the internet and they don't all look the same. They don't all have white backgrounds with the exact same font and black text. Okay, they're all varied in different colors, different images, different layouts, different formatting, and that is what CSS can do for us. Okay, here we are inside of our code. So what we're going to do now is run this web page, and you'll see, okay, we have this text, we have an image, but all the text is the exact same color and it looks kind of bland. So let's change the color of the text. Let's maybe change the background as well. So to do this, we need to create something known as a style sheet. And a style sheet is where we lay out all of the rules for our CSS, okay? And with CSS, you're basically going, okay, the header 1 tag here, I want these to look like this, or I want our paragraphs to look like this. And for each of those things, we can then specify specific rules, like, okay, our header 1, I want the color to be this, I want the background color to be this, I want the font size to be this, I want the font style to be bold, okay, or something like that. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, we need to create our style sheet tags. And to do this, we need to make sure that we are always doing our style sheet tags above our HTML code here inside of the body. So the first line underneath body, we are going to create our style tags like so. Have the opening and closing style tags. Now, inside of our style tags is where we basically lay out our individual rules, okay? So if we want to modify the header 1 tag right here, we can do it like this. So I'm going to put a new line here, and in between these two style tags, we are going to go H1, and then we need 2 squiggly brackets like so. And inside of these squiggly brackets is where we then define our specific attributes or specific rules for the header 1. Okay, what do we want to modify? What do we want to stylize or format? Well, the way it works inside of CSS, you have 4 steps. First of all, we want to write down the attribute we want to modify. So in our example, we're going to go color here, which is going to modify the color of the text. We then need a colon, and then after the colon, we want to write down the value. Okay, what color do we want? Well, in our case, let's just say we want this to be red. And then to finish it off, we need to put down a semicolon to tell the browser that, okay, this is the end of this attribute. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, now, like before with CSS and HTML, spaces and new lines don't really matter. At the end of the day, the document is going to be read in order and it's going to be ignoring all of these indentations and spaces. So a good way to lay out your CSS is by doing this right here. So you have each attribute for each rule on a new line. Now, if I click on the run button, you'll see that all of a sudden our header 1 up here is red, and that is because it is looking through this style sheet. Okay, whenever we are writing down a header 1 tag, it's going, okay, header 1, it says over in the style sheet that header 1 should be of color red. So that is what we are going to do. We are going to make the header 1 be red. And we can add multiple different attributes here. So on a new line, we can then go background dash color colon blue. Okay, let's make the background color blue. Run that, and there you go. Now this doesn't really look that good. You can of course go through and figure out the specific color scheme of your website. But for us right now, we are just here to demonstrate what CSS can do. Okay, so that is the basics of setting up CSS inside of HTML right here. Now, once you set up many new rules and you have a much larger HTML web page, this can get quite convoluted with having a style sheet as well as your HTML down here. So a really good alternative is to put this style sheet into an individual file which you load up here in the head, okay? And that is what we are going to be looking at in the next lesson. So I'll see you all in the next lesson. Welcome back, everyone. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at setting up an external style sheet, okay? Now, so far, we've looked at setting up our style sheet here inside of our HTML document. Now, once your website gets larger, you have more styles you're laying out here in CSS, and you have much more HTML, it can get quite confusing with having these two things mixed together. So a good way of setting this up is by having an external CSS style sheet where it only contains our CSS, and that just makes it a lot easier to modify your CSS without having to scroll through all this HTML. So what I'm going to do here is delete our style sheet tags and CSS code right here. And what we're going to do is go over to the left hand side in our files tab, and you should see here we have style.css. And if we select that, right here we have our CSS style sheet. And this right here is where we can write down our CSS code. So like before, we were modifying the header1 tag up here to be red and have a colored background. So we can do the exact same thing right here. I'm going to go h1. I'm going to go 2 squiggly brackets, put it on a new line. I'm going to go color :red semicolon. So in this case, remember we have basically the tag we want to modify, and then we have 2 squiggly brackets, and inside of those 2 squiggly brackets is where we are laying out our elements and what we want to modify about them, or our attributes and what we want to modify about them. So first of all, we write down the attribute that we want to modify. We then put a colon, and then we put the value that we want to give to that attribute. In our case, it's red. And then we put a semicolon. Okay, now let's also go ahead and change the background color to be blue. So here we are going to go background -color :blue semicolon. Okay, now we can then go ahead, return to our index.html here, and you'll see if I press the run button, that CSS is no longer there, so it's just going to give the default layout to the header1 tag. So how do we load in this external style sheet into our actual HTML document? Well, we need to go up here to where we have the header tags up here, and inside of these header tags is where we are going to create another link tag right here, okay, where we are linking the icon for our web browser icon at the top left corner of the tab. We need to do the exact same thing for loading in the style sheet. So we're going to open up a new link tag here, and the rel is going to be equal to style sheet. Okay, we are specifying what we want to load up right here. And then we need to go href equals, and we need to give it the path to our style sheet right here. Now, if you were in subfolders, you would go the folder name /style.css, but since everything here is in the same folder, I'm just going to go style.css like so and end it off like that. Okay, so we've got our style sheet loaded up right here. Let's see it in action. So I'm going to click on the run button up here, and there we go. We've got the CSS style sheet now being applied to our HTML, even though we don't have the CSS written inside of the document here. And this just makes it a lot easier to write your CSS and your HTML in their own separate documents, okay? So if you want to modify the CSS, you just go over here, and if you want to modify the HTML, you just go back to your index.html document. Okay, now let's have a look at modifying the paragraph tag right here. So we might want to change the font size of the paragraph. Let's go to our style.css sheet, and we're going to create a new rule here. Okay, so we're going to be modifying the paragraph. So we put down P for the P tag. We then open up 2 squiggly brackets, and in here, let's just say we want to up the size a bit. So here, what we're going to do is go font-size, and you'll see inside here REPL.it and many other IDEs, when you start writing down code, it does pop up with a bunch of possible things to enter in. We're then going to go colon, and then we need to give it a value. Now, this can be done in a number of different ways, as you can see here in this scroll list. I think the simplest way is doing it in terms of pixels. So let's just say we want to make this text, let's just say 30px, okay, for 30 pixels in size. And this is in height as well, so 30 pixels tall. You put a semicolon, click run, and you'll see here that the paragraph tag is now 30 pixels in height. And as a matter of fact, it's bigger than our header 1. So let's bring this down size a bit. We might want to make this only 15 pixels. And let's change the color of the text as well. So we can go color, colon, and let's change this to, we can look for a list right here. Let's change this to a dark red. Put a semicolon there, click run. So here we go. We have our updated font size. We have our updated color. Let's go back to index.html and let's modify the header tag up here to not display HTML page structure, but Let's go up here and enter in hello CSS. Click run, and there we go. So we can update the HTML and the CSS in their own individual files. Okay, so there's one more thing I want to go over before we continue on to the next lesson, and that is modifying the CSS of individual tags themselves. Okay, so let's just say you only want one paragraph tag to have a certain style. Now, a quick and easy way of doing that is by, for example, if we go to the paragraph tag right here, actually let's go to style.css and remove this paragraph tag here first, just so we don't have those clashing. Go to index.html, and inside of the p tag here, we can go style equals, and then we can enter in some CSS here. Okay, we can enter in CSS as the attribute of this specific tag. So we can go, for example, color : green. Okay, and that off with a semicolon, just like before. Hit run, and you'll see that we are modifying this specific paragraph tag, okay? We aren't modifying the one down below where it says HTML is easy. That is still got the default formatting. But this specific paragraph tag here has that style built into it, okay? So that's a way to do it. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. And in the next lesson, we are going to be looking at selecting by ID for CSS. So I'll see you all then. Welcome back, everyone. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at the concept of IDs inside CSS. So in the previous lessons, we've looked at being able to select specific tags and apply CSS to those. So as you can see in our style.css file over here, we are accessing the header1 tag and we are applying these properties to it, okay? We're making it color red with a background of blue. Now this applies to every single header one that we create. So if we were to create more header ones down below, they would all inherit these specific properties. But what if we want to give a certain tag a number of different CSS properties, but not other ones? Okay, so if we look back in our index.html document here, you'll see that we have two paragraph tags, okay? We have the one here which says this is a complete page, and we have HTML is easy. What if we only want to apply CSS to one of these specific paragraph tags, okay, and not the other? Well, in that case, we can identify a specific paragraph by giving it a unique ID and then applying CSS properties to that specific ID, okay? So first of all, let's change this paragraph right here, and we are going to give an ID of main paragraph, okay? So to do that, we need to give it an attribute called ID equals, and I'm just going to enter in main par for main paragraph, okay? So we've got main par right here, and this paragraph now has the ID of main par. So we can access that over in CSS and apply properties to it. So let's go over to our CSS document right here. And similar to how we've done it before, we need to basically lay out what we want to modify. So on a new line, I'm going to go hashtag main par. Make sure that the spelling is the exact same as what you wrote down for the ID. And hashtag is basically telling it, okay, this is for this ID. We then have the two squiggly brackets like before, and then we can lay out our specific properties. So let's just say we want this text here to be of color green. So for that, we can go color : green, okay? Make sure you have the attribute name, a colon, the value, and then a semicolon to end that off, okay? We can save that, run it, and you should see that the main paragraph at the top here has green text, while the one down below has black text. So that is a look at IDs inside CSS. Now, it is very important that if you do want to have multiple different elements with multiple different IDs, they all need to be unique. And no two tags can have the same value for the ID. So do keep that in mind when using IDs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next lesson. Welcome back, everyone. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at classes inside CSS. Now, classes allow us to basically modify a number of specific elements, a specific number of tags, which have a certain class attached to it. Okay, this is very similar to the select ID, but with class, we can have multiple tags have the exact same class, okay? So how do we do it? Well, as you can see here, we have a list of various different food items, and what we're going to do is make it so that all of the vegetables are colored in green and all of the meat items are colored in brown, okay? So the way we're going to be doing this is applying two classes, a vegetable class and a meat class. So how do we do that? Well, let's go to spinach first of all, and inside of the list element tag here, what I'm going to do is add in the class attribute and have this equal to be veg for vegetable. Okay, then for chicken here, I'm going to create a class attribute and call this one meat. For pasta, we're going to leave that as it is. For carrot, we can have the veg class as well, so we can go class equals veg like that. Same for cucumber, we want the veg class as well. And finally for fish, we can have the meat class. Okay, so if we click run, you'll see nothing changes, and that is because we now need to apply CSS to each of these classes. We need to specify rules for these classes inside of our style sheet document. Okay, so inside of our style sheet document, what we want to do is apply rules to the veg and the meat classes. Now, if we were to modify a specific tag, we would just enter in the tag such as li for list element. If we were to modify a specific ID, we would go hashtag and then enter in the ID name. But to modify classes, we put in a full stop, a period, and then we write down the class name. So we can go veg and then add in the two squiggly brackets right here. And then we add in our properties right here. So for vegetable, let's go color :green. Okay, and then as a bit of a challenge, I want you to go ahead and create the meat just below the veg and set the color to be brown. I'll be right back to see how you're done. Okay, and to do the meat, I'm going to go .meat, add in the two squiggly brackets, and go color, and then brown, and end it off with a semicolon. Okay, and there we go. So now what we can do is click run, and you should see here that spinach is green, chicken is brown, pasta is still black as that does not have a class applied to it, carrot, cucumber are green, and fish is brown. So that is how we can use classes inside of CSS. Classes allow us to select multiple elements and apply CSS to them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next lesson. Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at the box model inside of CSS. So whenever we are creating our div tags here, it is creating basically a rectangle on screen that is containing all of the data, okay? And I think the best way to demonstrate this is by setting a background color for our div tag here. So what I'm going to do is give it an ID so that we can modify it inside of CSS. I'm going to give it an ID of box here. All right, we can save that. Go over to our style sheet now, and I'm going to create the hashtag ID right here since we are modifying an ID. Actually, no, not hashtag ID, hashtag box. Hashtag means we're basically going to modify an ID, and then we enter in the ID name afterwards. Add now squiggly brackets, and I'm going to give this div a background color of yellow. So we can go background dash color :yellow semicolon. Hit run, and you'll see here that our div container has the text hello box model inside of it, and the dimensions of our div is this yellow color right here, this yellow rectangle. Now, what we can do in CSS is actually modify the size of this div container. Maybe you want to have a sort of more rectangular or sort of a more squarish looking shape. We can of course do that. We can also make the width different, as well as adding in padding to the left and right so that this hello box model isn't hugging the left corner of the div. So how do we change the width first of all? Well, we can change the width by going to a new line here and simply typing down width. We can go semicolon, and then we can modify it in terms of pixels. So we can specify a hard-coded pixel size. And for this, we can go something such as 200 px for pixel. Put a semicolon there, click run, and you'll see that the yellow ends right here. So the size of this div container has changed to be 200 pixels wide. We might also want to change the width, the height, so it's a much higher up. And for that, we can go height, and let's just say 100 px. Run that, and click run again, and there we go. You can see that this yellow container is now looking more square. Okay, but our text here, it's still hugging the edge of the screen. We want it to be more in a bit. And the way we can do this is with padding, okay? And padding basically adds a sort of barrier inside of this div container so that it pushes all of the elements in a bit depending on the padding that you're specifying. In our case, we want a 20 pixel pad around the corners. So to do that, we can go padding, and then give us something such as 20 px. Okay, hit run, and you should see here that we now have 20 pixels on each side being applied to the padding. Okay, so there is a 20 pixel gap from the left, right, up, and down sides of the div container here, so that the hello box model text is not, hugging the edge. And the same works for all elements that are applied inside of these two div tags. If you have an image, it will also have the padding applied. And this is really good if maybe you want a bit of a border around your content. Maybe you don't want your paragraph sort of right up next to the side of your web page. You might want it in a bit. And overall, div containers are very powerful and can be used for a large number of different things to contain data. And in the next lesson, we are going to be continuing on with this by looking at border margins. Okay, so I'll see you all then in the next lesson. Welcome back, everyone. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at borders and margins inside of CSS. So in the previous lesson, we set up a div tag right here with an ID of box. Then over in our style sheet, we applied a background color of yellow to that ID. We've set the width, the height, and the padding, so the final result looks like this on the right hand side. Now, what happens if you want a border around your div container here? As you can see, the yellow sort of blends in with the white a bit and it doesn't stand out as much as it should. Well, what we can do in that case is add a border. So I'm going to add a new CSS attribute here. I'm going to write down border. I'm going to go semicolon, and then we can give it a width of the border. So what size of the border do we want? Well, in our case, let's just go 2px for 2 pixels. We can then enter in a space here, and then we can specify the type of border. Okay, do we want this to be a dotted line border? Do we want it to be a solid line border? Well, in our case, let's make it solid. So I'm going to write down solid here. I'm going to do another space, and now we need to specify a color for the border. Let's just make this a black border like so. Put a semicolon there and click run. And you'll see here that we now have a 2 pixel wide border around our box right here. Okay, a solid black border around our div container. Something else we might want is to add a margin to our div container here. Okay, and what I mean by that is, as you can see, this div container is sort of hugging the side of our web page here. What if we want this to be more, more towards the center or more away from the corners? Well, in that case, we can add a margin which basically offsets this div container or moves it in a bit from the borders. So here I'm going to go margin, semicolon, and then we specify the size of the margin. In our case, we can do something maybe such as, let's just say 10px for 10 pixels. Hit run, and you'll see now that there is a 10 pixel margin added to this div container. It may be a bit hard to see, so let's maybe bump this up to 50, hit run, and you'll see that our div container has now been pushed more away from the edges of the screen with a 50 pixel margin, okay? So that is how we can do margins inside of CSS. I'm going to return this back to something maybe, we'll just do 20 here, so we'll run that. There we go. Now let's go ahead and create another div container and apply the ID of box2 to it, okay? As we'll be looking at some variations of the margins, okay? So let's go back to our index.html, and as a challenge, I want you to create another div element right here with the ID of box2. I'll be right back to see how you're done. Okay, and there we go. So I've just created another div container right here and given it the ID box 2. So let's return to our style sheet right now. And I'm going to create another ID property here. So we're going to modify this Ides CSS box 2, add in the semicolons, or not semicolons, add in the squiggly brackets. I'm going to give this one a background color of, let's just say, aqua here. So we're going to have a light blue. We'll run that to just have a look at how it looks. There we go, that's what it looks like. Now what we can also do then is specify a margin not around all sides of the div container, but on specific sides, okay? Because maybe we don't want to have another 20 pixel margin on the top of this div container right here. Maybe we only want to apply a certain margin to the left, to the right, to the bottom, or to the top of this div container. And the way we can do that is by just going margin dash, and then as you can see here, we have all these various different sides that we can give. I'm going to go margin dash left, and I'm going to give this a left margin of 20 pixels. So it lines up with our box model right here. Okay, we can click run. And as you can see now, we have a margin applied to the left, but not the top. As you can see, the top is the exact same distance away as it was before, because there is no margin on the top, bottom, or right hand side. There is only a margin on the left. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's have a look at how we can modify the individual sides of the padding, for example. Okay, because in the top example here, we are modifying our padding on 20 pixels around every single side. Okay, so that's 20 pixels on the top, left, bottom, and right hand side of our div container here. But what if we want to have different values for different sides? Well, to do that, we can do this, okay? I'm going to go padding, semicolon, and then we need to specify sequentially the top, right, bottom, and left padding, okay? Think of it as a clock. We start at 12, so at the top, then to the right, then to the bottom, then to the left. So here's what I'm going to do. For the top, let's just say we want a 0 pixel pad, so I'm going to go 0px. We're then going to do a space. We're then going to specify the right side padding. I'm just going to go 10 pixels. We then need to specify the bottom padding. I'm going to go 30 pixels. And then for the left-hand side, I'm going to give it a 40 pixel pad. Add in your semicolon, click run, and you should see here that we have different padding for different sides of our div container now. Okay, you can see there is no padding on the top. There's 30 pixel padding on the left. There's a 40 pixel padding on the left, 30 pixels on the bottom, and 10 on the right, which is a bit hard to see since the text doesn't extend over to that side. Okay, so that is how we can specify specific padding sizes for the different sides of our div. That is how we can add margins and borders to our div containers, and really from here you can experiment with all the various different types of borders. There's solid, there's dotted, so if I enter in dotted right here and click run, you'll see that it gives us a dotted border like so. So maybe you can highlight specific div containers or elements like so. Really, there is a wide range of flexibility inside of CSS for you to experiment with. As you can see, all the websites on the internet, they all look very, very different from each other. And that is due to them being styled in various different ways. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next lesson. Welcome back, everyone. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at alignment inside of CSS. So first of all, let's just say we want our text right here inside of this div container to be centered horizontally, okay? Because right now it's sort of on the left-hand side. Let's move it over to be in the center. Okay, so to do that, we need to specify the text align property. So on a new line here, I'm going to go text-align, semicolon, or colon actually, and we can specify a number of different things you can see here. I'm going to go center, and then off with a semicolon, click run, and you should see here that the text is now in the center of this div container. Okay, which is great. Now, what if we then want to align this text vertically? Okay, what if we want the text to not only be horizontally centered, but vertically centered as well? So it's basically in the middle of this div container. Well, for that, we need to do a two-step process. First of all, we need to specify the vertical align property. So we'll go vertical dash align, and we need to give this one middle, okay, for the middle vertical position. And you'll see that if we click run, nothing really changes that much. And the reason why is because we need to basically define or tell this div container the line height for the text, because right now the text doesn't know that it has all this space below it that it can occupy. So we need to specify that. And to do that, we want to go line dash height colon. And if you want it to be centered vertically, pretty much make this line height the same as the height you are specifying up here. So we'll go 100 pixels, okay? We can run that, okay? And you should see then that the text is now centered inside of this div container, which is great. Okay, so we've got text being centered, but what if we then want to basically align this div container in the middle of the screen horizontally? Okay, and what I mean by that is, as you can see, if I expand this screen here, this div container is hugging the left-hand side of the screen. What if we want this div container to be in the middle of the screen here, okay? The way we can do that is by modifying the margin, okay? As the margin specifies how much space there is to the left and how much space there is to the right, up and down, what we can do is, instead of giving a fixed pixel distance from either of those sides, what we're going to do is give an automatic size to the left and to the right, and I'll show you how we can do that. So here inside of the margin property, just like we've done down below of the padding, where we can specify the top, right, bottom, and left sizes, we're going to do the exact same here. So for the top margin, let's just give that maybe 10 pixels. We then go space, we need to give the right margin. Now for this, for the right hand side, we aren't going to specify a specific pixel distance. Instead, we are going to write down auto. Okay, for the bottom, we'll go 10 pixels, and for the left, we want to go auto as well. And I'll show you what this does right now. We can click on the run button right here, and you'll see that our div container is now centered in the screen. Okay, we can resize the screen like so, and you'll see that it always maintains its position in the middle of the screen. Now, how does it do this? Well, when we specify auto for the left and for the right, that means it's going to automatically figure out how far away it needs to be from the left and from the right, so that both of those values are equal to one another. Okay, so as you can see, the left and right margins are always going to be equal, which means that this div container is going to be in the middle of the screen. Okay, so that is just a way of centering our div containers, centering our text both vertically and horizontally. Congratulations on completing the course. In this course, we learned the fundamentals of HTML and CSS. Okay, we looked at how we can set up various different tags using HTML and then applying CSS on top of that to stylize what we have created. Okay, so HTML is the coding language we use to develop web pages. We looked at a number of different HTML elements using tags such as headers, paragraphs, images, lists, forms, and even the overall structure with using the HTML tag, using the header tag for a lot of the meta and backend information, and the body tags which encapsulate the website contents. We then looked at CSS and creating a style sheet which we can use to change the font, change the colors, change basically any sort of formatting that we want to apply to our actual website. Zenva is an online learning academy with over 500,000 students. We feature a wide range of courses for people who are just starting out or for people who just want to learn something new. The courses are also very versatile, allowing you to learn in really whatever way you want. You can choose to view the online video tutorials, read the included lesson summaries, or even follow along with the instructor with the included course files. Thank you very much for following along with the course, and I wish you the best of luck with your future websites and web development.